Hello everyone, this is Dr. Frank Rinkevich from the USDA Honey Bee Lab here in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. And the purpose of today's video is we're going to show you how to perform the Amitraz resistance and Varroa test. We're going to have a list of materials that we'll provide, a list of things that you'll need to do, and as well as a step-by-step set of instructions so you can perform the Amitraz resistance test in your very own bees.
You'll receive a kit with enough materials to test 10 colonies in your apiaries. You'll receive 10 plastic containers, 10 screen lids, 10 regular lids, 10 squares of Apivar, 40 small binder clips, 10 weighing dishes, 1 pair of nitrile gloves, 1 4-ounce cup, 1 data sheet, 10 tubes with green dots, 10 tubes with red dots, 1 strainer, 1 shipping envelope. Then there's a list of supplies that are not provided that you will need to supply in order to do the test. A 5-gallon bucket, some markers, hot glue gun and glue sticks, some petroleum jelly, a fine-haired brush, a pair of tweezers, some dish soap, a large tray or table.
First thing you want to do when you get your kit is to prepare your containers. You will take a square of Apivar and apply a generous amount of hot glue to one of the edges. And then you put that square of Apivar of the hot glue perpendicularly at the bottom of the container. And you hold it there for about 10-15 seconds until the glue starts to set. Once it is set, repeat this for the rest of the containers. Next thing to do is prepare your weighing dishes to collect the Varroa from the sample. It's a good idea to put an X on the tray like this. It'll help to count the Varroa later in the experiment. Then on the lip of the container, you will write a number. In this case, we'll start with 1. And then that corresponds to the colony that you'll be sampling, 1 through 10. Repeat this with as many colonies in your apiary. Now you have your tray labeled. You'll need to apply a thin coat of petroleum jelly. A little bit goes a long way here. Make sure you get the whole bottom of the container as well as up on the sides. Make sure it's an even, smooth layer like that. Now that you got your containers prepared, you'll take the container with the Apivar square on it, your 4-ounce cup, and a screen lid, as well as your 5-gallon bucket, out to the colony with you to sample your bees.
You will go out to your colony and sample bees from 2 frames that contain sealed brood. Inspect the frames to make sure you do not sample the queen. It's a good idea to cage the queen and put her back in the colony if you find her, or have a second pair of eyes to verify the queen is not on your frames with sealed brood. Once you've identified your 2 frames with sealed brood, you will shake the bees from the frames into your bucket with a quick, sharp snap. Shake the second frame of bees into the bucket. Replace the frames. Get your container with the square of Apivar and your screen lid ready, and sample the bees from the bucket with the 4-ounce cup. Once the bees are in the container, seal it with the screened lid. Dump the rest of the bees that are not sampled back into the hive and replace the lid or extra boxes and seal up your colony. Once you have sampled your bees, write the colony number on the bottom of the container and the time at which the bees were sampled.
Now that you have your bees in the container, you will attach binder clips to the lid like such in a crosswise pattern. Once you have the binder clips attached to the cup, you then invert that over the weighing dish with the clips in the corner to provide stability. Leave the cup over the container for 3 hours. After 3 hours of exposure, stop the experiment by simply turning the container onto its normal side. After the end of the experiment, you should have a bunch of Varroa on the tray. Count the number of Varroa on the tray and write that number on your data sheet. You will then collect the Varroa from this tray into the tube with the green lid. Write the number of the sample that you have on the tray on the top of the lid of the green tube. So number 1. Then using your brush or forceps, you could collect the individual Varroa from the tray directly into the tube, like such. Collect all Varroa from the tray into the tube with the green lid. Now that your experiment's over, you need to wash the Varroa from the bees to find if there's any resistant Varroa. You then take your container with the screen lid, add a little drop of soap, not too much, and then you add water until about 1/3 of the way full. Shake the bees into the soapy water, and then add more water to fill the container. Once the bees are submerged, you can remove the screen lid and replace it with a regular lid. You then agitate this container for 30 seconds and let it rest for a minute. Use up and down and swirling motions. Repeat that for 30 seconds, pause for a minute, rinse and repeat for 30 seconds 3 times. So we washed them a second time, remove the regular lid, replace it with the screen lid, pour the contents through the strainer. Okay, like such. We'll rinse this until there's no more soap left. So as we wash our bees a number of times to get all the soap off, this is what the bee should look like. There shouldn't be any soapy residue. You may or may not have any Varroa in the strain at this time. And in this case, we have 1 Varroa, and that's what they'll look like in this strainer. Now you have any Varroa in the tray, you're going to want to collect those Varroa into the tubes with a red dot. On the red dot, you write the number corresponding to the colony from which these bees came from on your data sheet. So in this case, we have 1. You could then use your brush or forceps to collect those Varroa from the strainer into the tube with the red dot. The red means that these are resistant. Now that the bees have been washed, we then count the number of bees in the sample. Remove the screen lid, dump the bees onto your tray or your table. You could spread them out and then start counting the number of individual bees in your sample. Now that you've counted all your bees, record the number of bees you've counted onto your data sheet. The last and probably most important part of this experiment is to have an accurate data sheet. In this case, we will have the names of the people who recorded the data, the date, location, and apiary. For each colony, there will be a number of data recorded. In this case, for colony number 1, the sample was collected at 10:35 and the experiment ended at 1:35, 3 hours duration. The number of Varroa in the tray is recorded in column A. In this case, we had 14 Varroa. The number of Varroa in the wash, the ones that we saw in the strainer, gets recorded in column B. In our example, we had 0 Varroa. We then take the total number of Varroa, A plus B equals C, the total number of Varroa in the sample. Record the number of bees that you counted in column D. That data allows us to do some calculations. We calculate apivar efficacy by dividing the number of Varroa in the tray in column A divided by C, the total number of Varroa in the sample. So 14 divided by 14 is an apivar efficacy of 100%. We can also calculate the Varroa infestation rate by dividing the total number of Varroa in the sample by the number of bees in the sample and multiplying that by 100. So in this case, 14 divided by 379 yields a Varroa infestation rate of 3.69 Varroa per 100 bees. Once I have received your data electronically, I will go over the Amitraz resistance status and Varroa infestation in your colonies. If the sample looks like I would like to have it shipped to me for genetic analysis, you will take the tubes with the Varroa in the Ziploc bag, the ones with the red and green tops. I will then send you a shipping label to put on the envelope in which you will put the tubes to send back to us here at the lab in Baton Rouge.
Once you have your data on apivar efficacy and Varroa infestation, you can refer to the treatment decision matrix shown here. Pause the video here to see what treatment recommendation is appropriate for your data.